do
Yeah,
Frank.
I feel like Frank the Tank. Yeah,
And
I
I
feel like
was
it's kind of past its prime. You
so
know
I
what
was
I
like,
mean?
you know what? We'll go with Frankie. It's still a nickname that's in my life. Ain't nobody call me
Fuck it.
Frank.
This is the intro to the video,
This
bro.
is the intro to the video.
Fuck it, man.
The origin of the name Frankie. But
Yeah, man.
yeah, okay. From you heard it from Max. This was the intro to the video. If you've been watching my channel, I just do mostly gaming on it, but we're gonna try to switch it up a little bit with sports podcast side of it, with talking with Max, an old friend of mine, 12 years, 11 years, something like that.
A long
A
time,
long
man.
time. How you doing, Max?
Dude, we're doing well, man. I mean, the Finns, fuck that, bro. So yeah, so those that don't know me, I'm a diehard Finns fan, Miami Dolphins. And we just got the news that Tua isn't playing against the Bills. So there goes any motivation I had for them to shock the world, like I was telling you last night, Frank. But what do we got to do? You know what I mean?
I didn't know until Alex broke the news to me today. I didn't see the report that he was out.
Really?
Yeah, and Lamar is supposed to be out too.
It's trending that way. So much for entertaining wild card. Although I do think the wild card will be pretty entertaining this time around, but shit, bro, we lost two good games, bro. Speaking of which, should we go into the playoff predictions?
Yeah, I mean, do you wanna go on the predictor right now, or do you want to talk real quick?
I'll whip out the predictor and then we can kind of just like talk about it because I know obviously you
Sounds
did your
good.
video. Can
Yep.
you see it?
Watch stream. Yep, we're good. Got it all pulled up.
All right. So what do you want to do? You want to go game by game and we
I
can
did
kind of
left to
like.
right in my video, so
All right, all right. So again, don't get mad at me because I don't remember your predictions,
it's
but
okay. I mean, I'm gonna be honest. After further consideration on my predictions, I kind of want to tweak some things,
all right.
which is like
All
the
right,
whole.
so this gives
That,
you a chance to do that.
that's the conversation we had with. You said you had some playoff predictions you want to tweak a little bit. I have mine. I want to tweak.
Yeah,
So
yeah. All right, so we'll start with Jags and Chargers. Let me tell you something, bro. This is going to be the most entertaining wild card game by far, in my opinion. Um, these are two teams that haven't been in the playoffs for a long time. Two young quarterbacks that are touted to be the future of the league. In my opinion, arguably two. Well, I'm sure they'll be top five quarterbacks. Herbert's already a top five quarterback. T. Law's trending that way very soon. Um, Listen, man, Jaguars won the division. Jaguars home game. I think the Chargers are a more experienced team than the Jags overall because the Jags are a very young team. But I don't know. I just like the Jags, man. I think the Jags are going to get the job done. They're the hottest team in the league right now,
you know,
at least in the AFC. I don't know about. Actually, I take that back. 49ers are the hottest team in the league. Jacksonville's the hottest team in the AFC. I don't know if you agree with that.
this is it isn't off topic, but it doesn't have to do with playoffs. Trayvon Walker may be the quietest first overall pick ever.
But he's
You
good.
don't hear much about him, but he
Yeah.
just does his thing. With this game specifically, what worries me is for you remember earlier in the year the Jags beat the brakes off the Chargers in L.A. That was when James Robinson broke off
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I
bunch of
remember
big,
that
bunch of
actually.
big runs,
Yeah.
and I'm not saying the Jaguars aren't on that level to compete with the Chargers again, because I think the Chargers have improved so much this year from the
Sure.
start of the season. But what worries me is you have a Jags team that got really cold in the middle of the year and then picked it back up, where you have a Chargers team that kind of just stayed on this wave of not
But
hot.
that's exactly why I like the Jaguars more because
I
they're the hotter team. You
yeah,
know what I mean?
Mike Williams
Like,
got hurt, Bosa got
yeah.
hurt. It's a home game for Jacksonville. It's tough, honestly. Like I want to pick the Chargers because of talent, but everything else is leaning towards Jacksonville. Home field,
Jackson. I
hot
just think
home
Jacksonville's
field.
defense
I already
is
said
going to
home
make the
field.
Jaguars
Coaching,
mad.
Staley is not the greatest of coaches,
Oh, Staley's not good.
so I mean
Also, I think Jacksonville's defense is going to decide this game.
that's true.
Being
I agree with that. And
so, like,
The Chargers struggled to score, or not score, but they struggled against the Colts, and the Colts are not
yeah,
that good. And that was the Jeff Saturday Colts.
yeah.
So I don't know. I want to pick the Chargers strictly off talent, but I am leaning towards Jacksonville after conversations with people.
Okay, so we're both on Jacksonville.
Jacksonville. I'm going Jacksonville.
We'll take Jacksonville. Do I even need to talk about this game,
This
bro?
is disgusting, bro. I can't believe it came down to this.
Shit, man. You know
It,
what? Like, dude, if Lamar was playing this game, we could be here all day talking about this game.
but
And I was
even
excited to talk about this
even
game.
if Lamar was playing, Demarcus Robinson, Devin Duvernay,
But even if no, but I told you this on the phone yesterday. Assuming Lamar was going to play, which it doesn't look like he will, I had them beating the Bengals because although I think the Bengals are a better football team than the Ravens, because Lamar hasn't been on the field for what, over a month now? It's a contract year. He's trying to get that guaranteed cash. And he has to prove to everyone, in order to do that, that he can get it done in the playoffs. Against a divisional opponent, historically speaking, like, and I think you agree with this division plays each other very close when they're healthy. Like, just generally speaking. So, like, this was inevitably going to be a close game with Lamar. Whether or not you choose the Bengals or not to win is irrelevant. Like, that was going to be a close game, probably a one-possession game. I had my trust in Lamar because although again, I can't stress enough, Burrow looks really good this year. Bengals are legit. I just thought in the playoffs, Lamar coming back, that whole little side story of like him trying to win that contract would be enough to overcome the Bengals and the Ravens can go on a little bit of a Cinderella run. But bro, with Snoop Huntley, they have a 0% chance of winning this game.
I'll
I'm not even
say
gonna
I'll
lie.
say one thing that would counteract the Lamar coming back and being a difference maker.
Yeah,
Jaguars and Niners, you said, were the hottest teams in their conference. Bengals
yeah.
haven't lost, I believe, since that Browns game where they got and that was beating the Chiefs, scoring on the Bills, which we obviously know what happened in that game, scoring first drive and moving the ball second drive. This is a Bengals team that's looked very different. And old podcast news, if you know, me and Max went on a massive rant about the Bengals
Yeah.
that they need to learn to make concepts and plays that would get everybody open rather than streaks. And what did you say about Jamar Chase being out?
Oh yeah, no, I mean, listen, I think Jamar Chase being injured for a month was literally the best thing that could have ever happened to both Joe Burrow personally and the Cincinnati Bengals. Like, because now they realize, because here's the thing, yeah, Cincinnati made the Super Bowl last year, we're a possession away from winning it, right? So like, no doubt they're a very good team, and Joe Burrow is a very good player. The issue with Joe Burrow and the Bengals were that, and we've talked about this numerous times, is like they were a very Jamar Chase reliant team. So like forcing the ball in double coverage, like making stupid throws when you have other, in my opinion, Pro Bowl esque receivers on the field. Tyler Boyd can get some yardage for you. T. Higgins would be a number one on most teams. You know what I mean?
Yep.
So although yes, Jamar Chase being out made the Bengals worse, it made Joe Burrow a better quarterback because it made him realize, and his coaches, more importantly, realize when they're scheming for the game, hey, guess what? We have other receivers that can get the job done too. So that forces him to not only rely on Jamar Chase, although Jamar Chase is their best offensive weapon, it forces them to forces him to spread the ball out evenly, which makes the Bengals that much better. You know what I mean? And the thing is, like, another thing we haven't really touched on is how piss poor the run game has been
Yep.
all year. Joe Mixon is very overrated. Um, so they can't be so reliant on the run game and Jamar Chase. That's not. I mean, we saw that was their strategy the early half of the season. They weren't looking too hot. What do they do now? They're playing like a Buffalo Bills-esque offense where it's very much an air raid offense, spreading the ball out, not so reliant on the run game. And they're being really successful because Burrow's making the smart throws now. It's not about necessarily feeding the ball to your best players. It's about making the right read and finding the open guys because he's realizing, hey, Tyler Boyd is that fucking guy. So is T. Higgins. So, like, why not get them the football? You know what I mean? So, Cincinnati's a good team, and I think to your point before I finish, I acknowledge they're a very hot football team, but the reason why I have Jacksonville over them in terms of, team that's on fire right now is because for me, I just think their defense has been incredible.
Yeah.
And, like, don't get me wrong, Cincinnati's a better overall team than Jacksonville, no doubt. And Joe Burrow is at a point of his career where he's a little bit more developed than Trevor Lawrence. And also he has a better team around him. But I just think the way that Jacksonville's defense is playing, if they were to go head to head, albeit a great game, I just don't know how Cincinnati's going to cope with that defense, man. Especially considering how beat up their offensive line is and how good Jacksonville's pass rush has looked. You know what I mean? Because I
Yeah.
think about it like that.
Well,
That's the hottest fucking defense in
to
the
your
A.
point, because I'm a Giants fan. If you didn't know, I'm a Giants fan.
Yeah.
Um, I read it somewhere. I saw it somewhere. The Giants have been the only team to really run the ball successfully on the Jaguars.
Yeah.
And even in that game, I felt like it wasn't successful in Giants' running game standard for like this season.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I understand your point. I just feel like when it comes to the passing game, I'm not saying they have bad corners or a bad secondary. It's just going to really be like you're in the playoffs now. You're only playing talented, super talented receivers. You know what I mean? So it's going to be tough for
But
them.
wouldn't you argue, like, because my argument would be, if you watch playoff football, the most important element of playoff football is defense. It's always
Yes.
defensive slugfests. So you got to favor the team with the stronger defense,
Yes.
typically. I would go experience one, and experience is tied with coaching too, right? Because good coaching can make inexperienced players look good. So it's about schematics, but it's also like more so than the regular season where it's about putting up a ton of points and you can get away with a bad defensive game. In the playoffs, you can't. In the playoffs, it's all about going to be a gritty game. It may not be the prettiest win, a lot of the time, but if you have a really strong defense, that's going to take you far. And Cincinnati's defense is decent, but in my opinion, it is nowhere near as good as Jacksonville's defense all
I
around.
agree with that.
I just think Jacksonville, if they were to play Cincinnati, although Cincinnati, I have no doubt, is a better football team all around, Jacksonville might have the edge because their defense is going into that game searing hot, like you said. Cincinnati already has a piss poor run game. No one can run the ball in Jacksonville, so they're going to have to throw the ball. Jacksonville knows that, and they're going to scheme against it. So I just think that, I don't know, man. Me in the playoffs might be a biased thing. I look to defense, and I just think Jacksonville can get the better of them.
Well, to wrap this up, last point I'm going to make about the Bengals is we were talking about how they were Jamar Chase, tunnel visioned. And I mean, it's fair. He's a great receiver, super
Yeah.
talented, of course. But something I've noticed over the 2 years that they've played, obviously, there's been plays he throws to other receivers, Joe Burrow. But now you're noticing it's not so much of a Jamar first read and then look for the other guys. It's we're going to look for this guy, give him the ball. Look for this guy, give him
Right.
the ball. Rather than, oh, Jamar's covered, we'll look for the. No. It's now
Exactly.
you got to cover all of them because he might be my first read. Higgins might
That's
be
what I'm
it.
saying.
And I love that. I'm
Absolutely.
not saying Burrow doesn't do that. I'm not saying he's a one read quarterback. But you remember the route tree I showed you. A lot of the routes were meant for Jamar Chase one-on-ones, and that's what they were targeting a lot of those plays. So,
And even if you don't know about the route tree, if you watch the Bengals the past year, you would see that they've always been a Jamar Chase reliant team. And again, this is not a shot on Burrow. This is not a shot on Jamar Chase. It's more like okay, how do I word this? Cincinnati's already a very good team, even when they had that scheme, right? They obviously made a Super Bowl doing that.
mhm.
But we know based on the playmakers they have on the field that they could be even better. And they're showing that this year. Burrow is showing a level that we didn't see last year, although Burrow was balling out last year.
Yes.
You know what I
That's
mean? Which makes them a better
I
team.
texted Michael that the other day, a couple weeks
So
ago.
that's what I'm trying to say, you know?
But we wrap that up because we talked a lot about the Bengals and Jaguars and that.
I don't want to talk about this fucking game, bro.
Bills, Dolphins.
Next.
I mean, yeah.
I'm not talking about this game. I literally don't want to talk about it, bro.
I mean, hey.
I'm pissed off, bro. I'm so down bad about it. I literally don't
Now
want
let
to
me
talk
ask you.
about it.
Let me ask you. I know you don't want to talk about it. Is Skyler or is Bridgewater playing?
Probably gonna be Skyler, bro.
Skyler.
All I'm
Okay.
gonna say.
Yeah, it's.
I don't want to talk about it,
Yeah.
bro. Like, there's literally what is there to talk about? This guy couldn't even get a touchdown on the Jets. And again, Jets defense is
Jets
legit.
defense is
They're playing
good.
with Joe Flacco, huh?
No, yeah, Jets defense is good.
Jets defense is good, but I'm saying, like, if you watch the way that game was unfolding, both teams offensively were inept. The Dolphins had good field position throughout the game, and they just couldn't do anything.
Yeah.
Again, they would be in the red zone, and then someone would commit a penalty, or Skyler would botch the snap, and this and that. It's like, you know what? I don't want to talk about it, dude, because I already know how this game's gonna go. You know what? Like, in my head, I came into this game optimistic. You know what? Hey, listen, we beat them once. We in my opinion outplayed them the second game with Tua in Buffalo, but we ended up losing that game. Okay, and no shame in losing to the Bills in that fashion. So, going into this game, assuming Tua was healthy, I was thinking, although the Bills are a better team, sure, the Dolphins play him close. You couldn't have asked for a better draw. I told you this on the phone last night. If you're the Finns, you haven't been in the postseason for a long time. Tua's never played in the postseason. Most of this team hasn't played in the postseason, right?
Hmm.
Like, truth be told, um, you couldn't have asked for a better draw if you're talking about kind of the fear of the unknown. You know what I mean? Like if he was playing against the Jags or the Chiefs, there's like they don't play each other every year.
Yeah,
It's harder to scheme for them. Whereas the Bills, you already know
this
what's
is the
kind of
third
plays out.
matchup. You know,
Yeah.
it's like all
And
right,
you
we
played
know.
them so well both times that you're going to feel confident going into that game that you can compete with them and ultimately win that game.
Hmm.
Now with Skylar Thompson, and again, I get it. He's what, a seventh round rookie. You can't really put a lot of pressure on the guy. Like, it's not his fault. He's new to the game, but it sucks as a fan that literally the last two times I've only seen my team in the playoffs. It's gonna be the second time I've seen my team in the playoffs. Okay, in my entire life. First time was with Matt Moore against the Steelers, where he got decapitated by Bud Dupree. Mind you, that was our backup quarterback. Now to say we have to, I waited what 6, 7 years to see us get in the playoffs again, and we have to play with our third string, bro. It's like, you know what? Like, I don't even want to talk about it. It pisses me off. It's unfortunate, but it is what it is, bro. What are you gonna do?
We'll move on to the next game then. Buccaneers Cowboys. Buccaneers are hosting a playoff game against the, I'm not going to be disrespectful, but the dominant Dallas Cowboys. But after last week's performance, getting ran through by Sam Howell with all your starters in fighting for the first seed. And the Bucks, they rested players, played the Falcons, they lost, whatever. But the Bucks got their playoff spot. How do you feel about this game?
Let me tell you something, dude. And we spoke about this throughout the year. We said Bucks don't look good. They ended up finishing with a losing record, although the division was horrible. That's why they're in. And like we're like, okay, but trust Brady's experience. But they're gonna get it right. But the offense is gonna get it right. And they've showed flashes towards the end of the year. Like finally, Mike,
Mike
what's
Evans
his
had the
name?
great
Mike
game.
Mike Evans finally got a touchdown after a couple months or whatever. So finally, it looks like they're expanding the pass, but the run game is just horrendous. Like they can't get anything going on the ground. So I know we spoke about this last night. We both went Buccaneers for the experience.
This
Cowboys
is a
look really
rematch.
bad.
This is a rematch from week 1.
It is a rematch. Sam Howell beat the Cowboys. Cowboys were playing with their starters because they're trying to go for the 1 seed, win the division. They just look bad. Everyone's going on the Bucks, and honestly, I slept on it, and I'm actually going to change my pick only because I think again, the Bucks offense has it really improved that much? No.
That's where I was, bro. I don't want to interrupt
You know
you,
what I
but
mean?
that's what I've been thinking about because I'm not gonna I don't want to spoil my whole video, but I had the Bucks going far in my playoff prediction video, and it was because Brady experience. He's gonna get these guys right. But what if those guys aren't right? And
Like, what is your? That's what I'm saying. Like, what have they shown us this year to show that they can get to that level?
exactly like they had the
They haven't
good
shown us
game.
anything.
They had the good game 2 weeks ago, but we didn't see anything last week because the starters were
It was
rested.
against who? Carolina,
Carolina
who's not that good.
banged up secondary, so it's
Yeah,
I'm at
Casey
the
Horn wasn't playing.
JC Horn exactly. So I'm at the point where I'm like, is it gonna actually be that good? Is it? I don't. I,
And then honestly,
the best rushing game
yeah,
the
go for it.
Buccaneers had was against the Cowboys in Week 1.
Sure.
But continue.
Well,
What you
and
were
here's the
saying.
thing. Here's the thing, right? The Cowboys losing to the Commanders, in my opinion, although it was a horrendous performance, it looked terrible. That to me, actually, in a way, gives me confidence that they're actually going to show up for this game.
That's what I told Caleb yesterday.
You know what I mean? Now, the only counter argument I can think of is that the Bucks defense, although their offense is horrendous, their defense is still top 5 in the league. I think that, in my opinion, they're still among the elite top defenses in the league. So Dallas is going to have to, especially at quarterback, Dak's going to have to play a really clean, efficient game. And the thing is, the thing with the Bucks is that their run defense might be best in the league. If not Jacksonville, it's them, right? So Dallas has been winning a lot of games, especially early on, by just ramming the football down the throat of their opponent. And I just don't know if that's going to be a viable strategy against this Bucks run defense. That being said, if Dak can play a clean game of football, I honestly have to take Dallas, bro.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna go Dallas. I don't know about you, but I got Dallas.
After, like I said, after thinking about it and all that stuff, I think the Bucks will slip up. I think Tom Brady will come to play. I don't think the team will be
That's what I'm saying. Tom Brady's not going to have a bad game, but I just don't know if the team as a whole is going to show up offensively. You know what I mean? Dallas, it's not like Dallas, dude. Dallas has one of the better defenses in the league too. Like Dan Quinn's been making them look really, really good on that side of the football. It's gonna be tough, man. Especially if they got no run game. It's gonna be really tough to stop to get points on the Cowboys. I
Yeah,
think.
go ahead and pick the Cowboys.
Yeah, we're putting the Cowboys. Wow, can't
All
believe
right.
we did that. Here we are. All right,
So,
Frank, go for it. Let's talk this game.
all right. Giants at Vikings. Let me tell you something.
Go ahead. It's
Let
your
me,
team.
let me tell you
We can
something
talk
about
about
this game. I know Vikings fans are very confident because they're like, oh, we're playing the Giants, which is fair. You're playing the 9-7-1 Giants. I know Giants fans, including myself, are very confident because we lost to the Vikings on a 61-yard field goal in a game that we came back, competed, played better than them, literally brought it down to the last play where they threw a screen to Justin Jefferson, and Justin Jefferson made things happen, put them in range to win the game. The Vikings did not look good in that game. The Vikings have not looked good in a lot of games, but they've won those games.
Yeah, exactly.
And I'm not saying the Vikings are frauds. I'm not saying the Vikings are bad. Give credit where credit is due. They've looked bad, but they've won their games. Now there's been times of them getting exposed. The Dallas game, where they lost by a ton. The Packers game, lost by a ton. The Eagles game, where they just had nothing going. This Vikings team at any minute, I feel, can be exposed. But when they're not getting blown out, they're winning those games. And I want to be honest. Backup center, backup right or third string right tackle. The Giants D-line has been the hottest it's been since week 13 with almost the same amount of sacks that they had in the first 13 weeks they've had in the last 7. New linebackers, secondary's back healthy. Adoree should be coming back. McKinney's back from injury. Daniel Jones has been looking the best he's been the past 4 weeks since that Vikings game.
Yeah.
Saquon has kind of turned it up again. The receivers have kind of found their roles. I'm not saying the Vikings are... I think most of America is picking the Vikings and the Giants are the underdog, but I think most of America knows the Vikings can be beat at any time.
I think most of America's taking the Giants.
I feel that. I don't want to say I feel that way, but I feel like casual America is picking the Vikings.
Nah, I disagree.
You
I think it's the NFL junkies are all picking the Giants because they know you guys played them close last game, but in addition to that, they just think that you guys have a lot more momentum coming into this game than Minnesota does, which I think is a fair argument.
I
But
think.
let me give you. Go ahead. Go
I
ahead. Go
was
ahead.
gonna say I think we have more momentum. I think us getting all of our injured players back that played key roles that will stop. The injured players that were out were huge parts and reasons why we lost games.
Oh yeah, for sure.
And them coming
Absolutely.
back, I'm not saying Adoree Jackson's going to lock up Justin Jefferson. But maybe
Ah,
it stops one of those 2 or 3 big catches that changes the game for the Vikings and gives them that first down.
he's
Remember,
starting for a reason,
the
you know.
game came down to a 3rd and 10 or 3rd and 20 that they threw to Jefferson on a corner route. Comes down to another 3rd and 10, they throw a screen to Jefferson. Jefferson was making the plays to win them the game. And you have Nick McLeod covering him. You know who Nick McLeod is? No, you
No.
don't. Nobody does.
Yeah.
So, I think, not trying to be a biased fan, but you can see where I'm coming from. I feel the Giants are in that spot where they're moving, they're going, and the Vikings kind of have their backs against the wall now.
So let me give you my argument real quick. So we spoke about this on the phone briefly, and we kind of agreed on most of the same points you just made. And I ended up taking the Vikings, but Frank, you're gonna get so pissed at me, dude.
Let's hear it.
Sorry, we ended up taking the Giants, but I'm gonna flip my pick because let me give you a reason. Let me start with the fact that America doesn't know what the hell they're talking about. Let's start with that. So I gotta fade the public, bro. When I see an opportunity to fade the public, and the thing is, like, again, I'm not on Twitter like you, so you have a better read on the public, just generally speaking, than I do. But based on what I've been hearing on TV, the little that I do go on Twitter and all that, like, it seems to me that all of the NFL analysts across the board are all taking the Giants for the same reasons you're taking the Giants, and they're saying, listen, the Vikings always, they have a negative point differential. They're the only team to go, 13-3 or whatever they finished the year with. the negative point differential, which is like just literally tells you statistically they are fraudulent, right? They're overachieving.
Mm-hmm.
Here's my argument, right? This is a Vikings home game. That to me is the biggest thing. And another element of that is they have a tough crowd. They're going to be loud. The Vikings honestly are going to go in with little pressure because everyone expects them to lose. So with that being said, they're going to go in with a ton of like positive momentum from their home crowd. They're going to play I think they're going to play a clean game of football. And honestly, you're going to hate me for this. I think I'm going to point at Daniel Jones and say he's going to have a terrible football game because I just don't know if I trust. This is going to be his first playoff game, so he's going to have jitters. The team as a whole is incredibly young.
This is a lot of players' first play outside of Landon.
That's what I'm saying. So Daniel Jones is because he's the quarterback. I have to look at him, but generally speaking, like across the board, it's a very young Giants team that has a lot of inexperience in the postseason. I think Dable's going to do his best to scheme, but I just think if this was a Giants home game, I would feel a lot more comfortable taking the Giants for every reason you just mentioned. But because it's away from home, they're going to be playing in a loud, rowdy environment. I just think DJ is going to get rattled. I think Minnesota, although defensively they've been shaky all year, I think they're going to actually put it together. Not because they're a competent unit. I think they're meh. Like at best, they're like, not great, not terrible. But I just think they're going to ride that momentum and ultimately win the football game in an ugly one. I think it'll be close. I think it'll be gritty. I think Saquon's going to be the real reason why you guys compete in this football game, if I'm being honest with you. That being said, I don't know, man. I'm just expecting, like I said, an efficient, clean football game from the Minnesota offense. I think JJ's going to get his. So I'm going to have to take Minnesota only because, like you mentioned, to start off your point, although they've been ugly all year, all ugly wins, they're wins, man. Minnesota knows, and to me, and we spoke about this in the past, right? Minnesota may not be the most perfect team in the world, but it takes skill. It's not luck at this point. It takes skill to close out games.
When you're 18 games in the season, or 17 games, I guess, and you have 13, 14 wins, it's not luck at that point. Like,
that's what I'm saying.
Yes, you have those moments where it's like, oh, they got away with one. But they made the play.
Yes, and to finish my argument for the Vikings, I just think this is the type of game where you just have to look at the two teams and say which one is objectively the better football team. Mm-hmm. I just think right now, based on the current trajectory, Giants are a very good team. They're going to get better over time because they have a lot of young pieces. I just think Minnesota right now is in a better spot to compete for in the postseason than the Giants. So I'm going to take Minnesota just for that experience and for all the other things I mentioned earlier. But I don't know how we're going to decide this because I know you're taking.
I was going to say because it's you're the guest. You're talking.
We got to come to a consensus.
The thing is, I understand why you're picking the Vikings. Like, I'm not saying they already beat us. That's like a tiebreaker as it is, So you could pick the Vikings. I'm not going to get pissed about it. The only thing that I think is the game changer for the Giants side, on their defensive side, is like I said, the Vikings are playing backup offensive linemen versus a hot Kayvon Thibodeau. Aziz, Dexter Lawrence is playing Pro Bowl, All-Pro level. Leonard can just kind of sit back and be the background guy, and that for Leonard Williams to be the background guy is a great thing for the Giants. So
yeah,
I think it's going to be the game plan is rattle Kirk. Don't let him get the ball to JJ.
They can mitigate that damage Minnesota can if they can establish the run, which has been tricky for them this year.
And we shut that down in that game, which was huge for us keeping close in that game, forcing them to pass. But we forced them to pass. Hawkinson had 2 touchdowns. We forced him to pass. Yeah. Jefferson had 100 yards and a touchdown. So it was like it was pick your poison. And I'm happy we stopped the run. But now that if we could stop the run again with Adoree and McKinney back, maybe McKinney mans up on Hawkinson, and Adoree can play JJ and cut his yards from 100 to 70. That's a huge difference in a game like that. So I'm gonna go with you, and you could pick the Vikings because I'm fine with that. I'm not against it. They already beat us. But Sunday, man, I pray 4:30 p.m. Kirk. He's not ready for the game. He's not ready for it.
Yeah, it's not 1 p.m. So that doesn't help.
Hey, but DJ's got a bad record after 1 too. They both do.
Does he?
Yep.
Funny, bro. This one, I don't know if we have to harp on this game too hard. I mean, I feel like we're both going to take the 49ers. I think I've told you this in the past. I just think they're the best team in the NFL, period. I think Brock Purdy is that guy. Again, You don't really need Brock Purdy to take over the game to win because you already have, in my opinion, arguably the most unguardable player in all of football, Christian McCaffrey, the biggest difference maker any team could ask for currently. Um, he's just so versatile. He's going to make anybody look good. That protection's looking really good. Um, those weapons. I mean, look how well Kittle's been playing since Purdy got put in that position. I just think also that being said, I am a big Purdy guy. I just think Purdy's looked really, really, really good. He's done more than he's had to, and that just speaks to how talented he is and the coaching around him to make him feel comfortable. Um, I just think 49ers are a way better team than the Seahawks. I don't know about you.
I'm pulling something up really quick because I don't want to say the wrong thing because that would make me look very dumb. Because there's one player I want to talk about on the Niners defense. Yeah, that's who it is. Where's the tackles? Yep. Let's talk about the development and kind of comeback story for Dre Greenlaw, the linebacker.
Yeah.
So I'm looking at the numbers. I remember when he was a rookie. He played 16 games. He started in 11. His numbers slowly went up, and then his season was cut short last year. He played 3 games.
Right.
He went from 92 tackles to 86 to 21 because of the injury to 127 tackles.
Crazy.
You put him with Fred Warner. Like, I know Fred. We all know Fred Warner is probably the best linebacker in football.
Probably.
But when I heard a lot about Green, because I don't watch a lot of. I watch the Niners, but I haven't been keeping up with them all year. And when I've been watching their games, and you hear Dre Greenlaw's name mentioned a lot, you put 2 good linebackers on a defense with an alright secondary, not the worst. Good D line. You know, linebackers are the most important position in football, in my opinion, on the defensive side. I mean, corners are obviously
You're the quarterback of the defense, you know?
exactly. And when you have a second linebacker who's playing up to par with your first linebacker, your star, the best in the league. Not saying Dre Greenlaw is the best in the league, but he's like 127 tackles isn't anything to sleep on for
Oh,
a
gee, that's
linebacker
27.
who really just developed out of nowhere. So my friend got mad at me because he watched my video and he said I didn't talk about the Seahawks enough and I just gave the 49ers the win. I'll say this about the Seahawks. You're riding momentum, you got to win in your home stadium. You're playing a division rival, division matchups. We all know you play them, 3rd time now. One thing I heard, and this was a good point, I don't remember what analyst said it. The Niners are the kind of team where you can get that plug and play quarterback, any of them. But the thing with the Niners that is very iffy, how did they lose the Super Bowl? They lost because Jimmy Garoppolo overthrew the ball and missed Emmanuel Sanders.
They shot themselves in the foot in that Super Bowl.
The run game was great. Don't get me wrong. You had Tevin Coleman, you had Raheem Mostert. The run game was awesome that year.
Yeah.
But when it came, they didn't have the crazy weapons they do now. But when it came to passing the ball, Garoppolo couldn't get it done. How much can you rely on Purdy? I'm not saying Purdy's bad. I'm not saying he can't do it. But there's going to come a point where these experienced playoff teams and experienced playoff coaches are going to look at Purdy and say, let's take advantage of a rookie.
But here's the thing. You just said it, right? This 49ers team offensively is way better than that 49ers
and
team. Although that 49ers team offense was very, very good.
Mm-hmm.
And the difference is I trust Purdy to get the ball to Christian McCaffrey, who can make plays. I trust I trust Purdy to get the ball to George Kittle, to ball out like he has been. We were just, talking about Deebo Samuel has finally started to get some momentum in the passing game. Finally, Ayuk's had a really good year.
He's been great.
So like even if they want to play the let's force Purdy to make throws game, the protection is so good around him.
I wasn't saying it as like I'm doubting him. It was just a question to throw out there. Like, how will people see that as, how are we going to take advantage of Purdy? I think Purdy has the weapons to succeed. I don't think he has to do anything. Honestly, he's Stetson Bennett. He just got to get it to the guy, and the guy's going to make the play.
I mean, yeah, in a way he is, yeah.
But no, he's
right, 49ers, right?
Yes, Niners.
All right, let's do these divisional slightly quicker so that we can emphasize okay.
Bengals.
Dude, this one's a really tough game, man.
I said this was my matchup.
Okay.
Obviously, prayers for DeMar Hamlin. This is the rematch of that game that never got finished, and the Bengals were rolling. How do you feel about this?
I think the incident you just mentioned, I think this was going to be. I think these are two very evenly matched teams. But I think at the end of the day, the differentiator in that game was, and again, I hate to sound so shallow in some of this analysis, but like, this is a Bills home game,
Oh,
man.
I was about to say,
You know what I
Bills home
mean?
game. It's gonna be, if it is happens this way and it's a rematch. They're gonna have the jumbotron going crazy for. They're probably gonna have videos of him on the screen. The fans are gonna lose it, bro. This atmosphere for this game is gonna be insane.
And I just don't see Cincinnati pulling the same shit they did last year again. Now, again, we acknowledge they're a better team. We acknowledge Burrow arguably I honestly think he's a better quarterback this year than he was last
Yes, I
year.
100% agree.
Um, and so it's not that the Bengals regressed, it's that the Bills have improved. And I just think the Bills, like you said, have all this momentum going in because it's that rematch, because it's in Buffalo. Although it's going to be a really, really objectively great game, I got to take Buffalo, dude.
Yep,
All right,
I
so we
agree
got
with you.
Buffalo. This one comes down to just experience,
I
man.
believe they already played this year. I have to check.
Jacksonville, I think, played them close, or I could be wrong on that.
I believe they played in Kansas City. Let me look. You can talk though.
Yeah, no, I mean, listen, to make this a pretty quick analysis, I think Jacksonville is a good team. Like I said, I think their defense is the hottest defense in the AFC. So I think they can make it really interesting against the Chiefs, but I just think the Chiefs are just in a better position to compete and go further in the playoffs. I think they just have a better overall team. I think the fact that they're, at home, it's just going to be too much for T-Law. You know what I mean? Like, I think this might be a year too early if we're talking for
They did play, and the Chiefs won by 10. I think that was the Kadarius Toney first touchdown game. But yes.
Gotcha. Okay. Anyways, to conclude my point, I just think that Jacksonville is a good team, but if we're talking competing with the Chiefs, we got to wait one more year for T-Law to develop to get that good. But I got to
going with the Chiefs, and I know you talked about the run game for the Jaguars being really good. The Chiefs' run game has developed since they've started Pacheco. They're kind of a different style, not a different style of football team, but they can run the ball now. So it'd be an interesting matchup. All right, divisional matchup. How you feel about that one, Max?
This is a really hard game to pick.
Both teams won when they played at home. Just remember that.
Yes, but at the same time, that being said, when the Cowboys won, the Eagles were playing with Gardner Minshew. There's that.
Since you said that, I'll bring this up. I brought this up. I've said it before. The Cowboys, the Cowboys fans were excited. They were super happy they beat the Eagles, talking their shit, as you should be. You allowed 40 points, though, to Gardner Minshew. Still a great Eagles team.
True.
You allowed 40 points to Gardner Minshew. And the next week, the Saints only allowed, 10 to Gardner Minshew's Eagles in Philly. What does that say about Dallas's defense after they just allowed 40 to Washington?
Can I tell you something?
Yeah, let's hear it.
The playoffs always provides a weird game, man. Like, whether that's a really good team just not showing up, or, in the case of the Bills and the Chiefs last year, the coin toss didn't favor the Bills, so they didn't get a chance to tie the game, whatever. I honestly think this is going to be one of those games where, everyone expects the Eagles, because the Eagles are a better football team, to just, again, maybe they're not saying they'll kick their ass and make it not a competitive game, but you expect Hurts to get the job done. Dude, for some reason, my gut is telling me Hurts is going to fuck up bad in this game. I honestly think so. And I think Dallas
was hurt in the Giants game. He didn't throw the ball a lot. He looked bad. He didn't keep the QB keepers. He gave a lot of handoffs on RPOs.
But it's not because, I'm a Hurts guy.
Yes.
I'm a Hurts guy. So it's not that I have this agenda and I don't think Hurts can get it done. Because Hurts has best protection in the NFL. Some of the best weapons in the league.
Yep.
Probably the best run game in the league. And that defense is legit. So they're going to make life really hard for Dak as well. But for some reason, I just think the Cowboys' defense in particular, the pass rush, is going to show up in this game. Because I think, again, divisional matchup, there's no pressure on the Cowboys in this game. I just think Dallas is going to beat them, man. It's weird.
I'll tell you this.
I think Dallas is going to beat them.
Here's my X factor for the game. You're in Philly in a playoff game. The Dallas weapons are shot. They're relying on T.Y. Hilton to make plays now because Michael
Yeah.
Gallup has disappointed. Noah Brown drops the ball. Noah Brown had a great start, turned into a drop machine. Tony Pollard and Zeke have been great. Dak leads the NFL in interceptions. Do you want to know who the X factor is?
Who's that?
It's not Darius Slay, because Darius Slay is going to do his thing. I have no doubt about that.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
It's the other guy, James Bradbury. If James Bradbury can shut down their number two, and even sometimes shut down CD if he has to, and Darius Slay just does him, Dak's going to keep throwing interceptions. 'Cause I don't see.
Let me tell you something. I don't anticipate Dak throwing the ball a
I
lot
don't
in
either.
this
No,
game.
no, I don't either. But I feel like if it came to that,
Dude, I think Zeke and Tony Pollard are gonna have a
if
really.
it came to that point in the game, though, is what I mean. Is you're going to have to
Yeah.
rely on passing, and I feel like these corners are not going to let you do that in this game.
And I don't disagree, but I also think it's gonna be a situation where it's gonna be run, 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 run. Fourth quarter, he has to start throwing. Dak doesn't look great, but Jalen Hurts looks worse. Because I just think Dallas's pass rush is going to put a ton of pressure on him,
Hey.
and for some reason, he's just going to make a mistake and lose the game.
Parsons said today, he said something about cut all that bullshit. I'm in playoff mode now. So
That's what I'm saying, dude. It may not be the sexiest pick, and honestly, this is like worst case. This is like a DEFCON 1 situation for the NFL if you see Dallas making a conference championship run. But like, I'm just trying to like, I think, you got to spice it up a little bit in the postseason, especially with these predictions, because like, you got to take into account the unpredictable. It's like, these are things that people may not be anticipating that we've seen over the years are more than capable of happening.
And just remember, the Eagles starters just played against the Giants third stringers and almost lost the game. They were fighting for the first seed. They were playing, and they almost lost the game.
I'm just saying also, to make my final point, the Eagles are such a young team, and don't get me wrong, they've been great all year, right? They got the 1 seed for a reason. But they're the type of team, they're like, I don't want to make this comparison because it's also not true. I think they're a better team. But like, in the sense that Baltimore had a bye week going into the postseason a couple years ago, and that really screwed them up. They're the type of team that, like, they're so Titans.
No, you're talking about when they played the Titans, when Derrick Henry.
Yeah, or rather, yes, that's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
Yes, I mean when Baltimore played the Titans, right? Exactly. So point being, they are a dominant team. They're probably a better team than Dallas, but they're young guys, and they're all about keeping the momentum going. And I think them not playing a week might cap them. Whereas Dallas coming off a big win against Tom Brady and the Bucs are going to be coming in with all the momentum.
I agree with that. And here's something I'm going to say real quick so we can move this on. I think the Eagles scraping a win away from the Giants third stringers and then not playing stalls the momentum. That's
what I'm saying.
It's at a freeze. The Cowboys losing to the Commanders.
Can't be saying that.
The Cowboys losing to the Commanders. Although I talked to Caleb, I know it's a huge deal. I feel like it didn't kill their momentum.
It doesn't matter at all.
Because
if anything, that
now they're in the
motivates them.
playoffs. So
Yeah.
I'm gonna be with you.
All
I'm
right.
gonna go with Dallas.
Take Dallas. And then this game, I think it's going to be really, really, really interesting. I think Vikings are going to play the 49ers closer than people think. I still got to take the 49ers.
Yeah.
Again, I do think they're the best team in the league. I just think, again, overall in a close game, Vikings know how to close it out, but the 49ers have just been, again, consistently great all year. I got to take the 49ers.
I'm going with the Niners as well. Just
All right.
everything you said. All right. So, conference championship, AFC championship is going to be held at a neutral site if it's this game.
Yeah.
So it's no Arrowhead. It's no, I don't know what the Buffalo Stadium is called. It's no Buffalo.
Orchard Park.
Yeah, it's not. I don't know where they want to play because Indianapolis declined it. So it could be Minnesota. Never
Interesting.
know. But Max, you're a big.
I gotta take. I gotta take the Bills.
You're a
bro.
big Bills guy.
Like, the thing is, Bills are due for about. Dude, the Bills have gotten screwed against the Chiefs multiple times. Last year was the year they couldn't get over the hump of the coin toss. The year before that, they imploded. Whatever. I think the fact that it's a neutral site makes this game way more favorable for the Bills. And I just think they're the team of destiny in the AFC this year. I think they have to beat the Chiefs.
Now, I'm gonna say something that might upset you. They could be the
Okay.
team of destiny. They could be the team of destiny. But Patrick Mahomes once called himself the Grim Reaper because he kills everybody in the AFC. Unless it's Joe Burrow. Unless it's Joe Burrow.
Yeah.
But no, I'm gonna be honest. As much as I feel like I always pick the Chiefs. I'm always
Yeah.
Mahomes Chiefs. I just have a feeling. No way the Bills lose a third time, right?
That's what I'm saying, man.
A third AFC
I mean,
championship.
it is in the Bills' DNA to pull that sort of stunt off, to be
Yes.
fair.
Now,
But
this is what I love. It's a neutral site, but we know Chiefs fans travel, and we know Bills Mafia is crazy.
Dude, Bills Mafia travels more than
So
any other. Actually, no. I think okay. There's the only two fan bases that might travel more than Bills Mafia: 49ers and Raiders.
yes, I like the Raiders fan base travels. It sucks they're not in
But
Oakland
but
anymore.
in this game, Chiefs have a strong fan base, but the Bills Mafia is going
I
to show up
would
to this game.
love to see the let's say they play in Minnesota, just the red and blue everywhere, and the
Dude,
divided stadium, AFC Championship, like that would be awesome.
yeah.
I know you're picking Bills. I'm picking Chiefs. I think I'm picking Chiefs to win, but I'm not against the Bills because it's the third year you guys are playing them. You have to beat them, right?
I think this is the year for the Bills to
So
beat
we
them,
can pick
bro.
the Bills. I'm okay with that. I'm not
All right, we'll
against it.
take the Bills. This game is going to be electric.
Have they
Because
played? Did
now
they play this
Dallas
year?
is coming off two. Go ahead, go ahead, go ahead.
No, no. I was gonna say, did they play this year? I'm looking it up right now.
I don't know if they have
Oh,
actually.
I'll check it. You can keep talking though.
Yeah, I was gonna say, dude, Dallas is coming off two major upsets. But the problem is they're playing against the best team in football.
They did
So
not play. All right.
they didn't.
First
I
matchup.
think the defense. I think Brock Purdy's gonna look terrible this
I
game.
think he's gonna look like shit, but it's really not gonna matter when you got McCaffrey,
That's what I'm saying,
Debo.
dude.
The defense is great. Remember, I keep bringing it up. Dak leads the NFL in picks. He
Yeah.
makes every quarterback makes mistakes, but you lead the NFL in picks against a defense that brings pressure. What did I say about having great linebackers? You're playing a team that's breeded to run the ball with Fred Warner, Dre Greenlaw. I'm going Niners.
I gotta go Niners as well.
Oh, what a Super Bowl!
This game would be insane. Okay. I think the Niners are just a better football team all around. But
But
I think the Bills are going to come in. First of all, let's talk about fan base game. Dude, those fans for both sides are going to be loud. Okay?
East Coast. It's also East Coast versus West Coast too.
East Coast versus West Coast. Although the Bills are not a perfect football team, where I could argue the 49ers are a more complete team all around, just think they're coming in with the Hamlin thing. They're coming in, finally getting over the hump of beating the Chiefs. This is the team of destiny. I got to go Bills. 49ers will be back.
Here's the thing, though. 49ers will be back. That was a quote George Kittle said after the Super Bowl when they lost to the Chiefs.
Yeah. Well, they're back in this scenario,
He
right?
looked up. He said, "I will be back."
They'll be back. Doesn't mean they're going to win, though.
Well,
No?
they were throwing to what's his name, Emmanuel Sanders against the Chiefs. They're throwing
Yeah.
to Brandon Ayuk, Debo, Kittle, McCaffrey. Star defense. Buffalo, you got Stephon Diggs, you got deep ball merchant Gabe Davis. Josh Allen, who has cleaned his game up. He's cut down on the turnovers.
He still made some pretty bad turnovers recently, but it's been better.
It's been better. He was a turnover machine the first 11 weeks, 12 weeks.
True.
Defensively, the Bills, really good. My gut is telling me 49ers. But
Again, my brain is telling me 49ers, but my gut is telling me Bills.
my gut is going Niners are the better team. They're going to win. My brain is telling me team of destiny.
Is football predictable enough make that argument,
Ex-
especially in the Super
exact.
Bowl.
Shoot, man.
Think about, because you also have to take into consideration the scenarios that we have laid out. We're saying that the Bills just finally came over, went over the hump and beat the Chiefs.
Yes.
You understand how much momentum that's going to
That
generate
is gonna
for
have
the
them
entire team.
electric.
I think of okay. Can I make a comparison? Although it's completely different.
Yes.
When Georgia finally, we talked about this last night. When Georgia finally got over the hump and beat Alabama, look how dominant they've been. It clicked. They finally stopped choking big games. If Buffalo beats Kansas City, although I agree with you, 49ers are a better overall team, that momentum will be enough to win them the whole thing, man.
As much as
It
I
just
want
will.
to pick the Niners, Brock Purdy, rookie in the Super Bowl, doesn't have to be the greatest, but you might have to be the greatest in this game.
I don't know. Okay, I don't know if I agree with that either.
Here's the thing.
I just think
This is a defense though where it's not a Seahawks where they have holes. It's not a Vikings where they have holes. It's not a Cowboys where you're lacking at some corner spot. And this is a defense where they're all well coached. They're all talented. They all make plays. They've all played good this year.
what happens if Josh Allen plays the best game he's had the entire year?
And they lose or they win.
I'm saying 49ers, I completely agree with what you said about their defense. They have little to no holes in the defense. Oh, the reason why the Bills aren't the 1 seed in the AFC, aside from the situation that happened in Buffalo, is that Josh Allen hasn't been playing the cleanest
Yes.
style of football throughout the year. If he has a perfect game with his receivers on this defense, even though this defense is elite, I just don't think anybody can stop him, man.
The one thing I'll say about this game, I don't see the Bills running the ball at all.
No, absolutely not. Absolutely not.
No runs, which means a lot of Bosa, a lot of pass rush. And
But that's irrelevant because I think Josh Allen's gonna have the best game of his career, dude.
that would honestly, if it was a Purdy Josh Allen like shootout, I would love that. But
That's what I'm saying.
I think these defenses are too good to give up a shootout. I don't think it's going to be a Patriots Rams where it's a 13 to 9 game or whatever the hell it was. But I think it's going to be a 24, 30 point, for each of them where it's like, we'll score on that shot play, but it'll be a little tug of war in the middle.
Yeah.
So I'm going to go with you. I'm going to go with the Bills. I think
Bills.
Josh Allen, I think the Niners talent over the Bills talent is there for offense, but I think Josh Allen makes the difference compared to Brock Purdy.
That's what I'm saying. And again, the 49ers will be back. But the Bills, I just think with everything that's happened on and off the field, they're just going to get it done. They're just going to get it
And
done.
I'm going to be honest, not to sound, I don't know if this is even disrespectful, but if the Bills get to the Super Bowl, they're going to have the whole like pray for DeMar at the start, and it's going to get everybody.
Yes.
It's going to get everybody emotional. I feel like even if any team gets there, but if it's the Bills,
But again, in addition to that, them beating the Chiefs for me is like an incredibly huge factor.
Yeah, I think the Bills kind of have that. Not that it's weighing on their shoulder, but it's kind of like that angel on their shoulder. Like it's like,
Yeah.
it's like we got.
That's why I'm saying they're the team of destiny. I think they have to.
I'm not against that. Like honestly, this is probably a more realistic playoff one than I had, because I had the Giants and the Bucks in the NFC Championship on some upset stuff. So
I mean, you can't rule anything out in the NFL.
yeah, I mean, at this point, I feel like this is the closest. Like, we're gonna have wild card weekend where anybody can win. Outside of, I think the Seahawks and Niners, I think every team can beat each other.
Yeah.
So that's a very, very fun one. We're back, and now we're doing a 2023 mock draft. Gonna be honest, real quick, just first round pick, right? First picks.
I'm thinking, yeah. So we could just run. If you want to do full first round, I'm cool with. If you want to run up to 15,
I'm cool.
Whatever you're
I'm cool
down
with
for.
15 just because it's super early and all that stuff.
Let's do 15. Yeah, and honestly, I think a lot of a lot of the trades are going to be top heavy
Yeah,
anyway. So,
I'm cool with
you know.
15. Gotta be real honest, Max. You know this. I don't know much college football outside of like the top five people, so this is gonna be
All right.
mostly you. We could talk about it though. I'm down to talk.
We'll talk about it, bro, because I feel like you will understand from a schematic standpoint what's a good fit, what's not a good
Yes,
fit
I just
based on
don't
what.
know what most players are.
That's fine. That's fine. But you'll understand it from a fit
Yes,
perspective. So I'll just go straight into starting the draft. So obviously Chicago got the one because for some reason the Texans decided to win their game,
well,
which is
did you
crazy.
you hear you hear Lovey Smith knew he was going to be fired, that theory, so he won the game.
Oh, I heard that. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
That's that's I like that. I'm not going to lie.
I mean, that's interesting. I mean, it's always fun to kind of come up with a little theory like that, but I'm gonna
So,
just tell you this straight up. There's no way Chicago's drafting with this pick.
you think they're not taking
Zero
you think
scenario where
they're
they
not going
draft
Will
Bryce
Anderson or
Young.
anything like that?
Listen, that's a smokescreen. Any of the things where they take, I've been hearing, oh, Bryce Young going one to Chicago and they're going to
No,
trade
I don't
Fields.
see that.
That's a crock of shit. Okay, I'm telling you right now, if you're Chicago and you're smart, you're going to trade down and you're going to either go defense or receiver because there's gaping holes in both areas of the field, and you're going to just try to get as many assets as you can to just construct an overall better team for Justin Fields.
Yes.
Because I don't think Justin Fields is the reason why they have the first pick. He's been playing pretty well this year.
Something I
I
think
think he can improve as a thrower of the football,
I
but
don't
I
know
don't
if
think he's a bust by any
I don't
means.
know. I don't know if you saw that the Steelers now have pick 32, I think it is, because the
Yeah,
Bear.
because so you'll see it on here. Just I'll show it briefly if you look at this. It's because oh, I wonder who forfeited
Yeah,
the friggin' first round pick
I
for
I saw that.
tampering.
And
So now it's only 31 first round picks, so 32 is technically a second round
second
pick,
round
but
pick.
you see
But
what I
that
mean? So
but
that's
that's
why.
for Claypool, and that's I feel like that's huge now. You know what I mean?
Oh no, dude. I mean that's a win for Pittsburgh.
Yeah. I think
Absolutely. So
and
they get a first round value pick for Claypool. Are you
and
kidding
Claypool
me?
had a very bad. You noticed the Bears weren't winning, but they were competing a lot more. And then they
Yeah.
got Claypool, and they lost seven straight, and it was a tank. And then the Steelers won six straight after they traded him.
Yeah.
So, I'm not saying
Okay.
Claypool's bad, but
No, I agree.
So who do you think, or what do you think the Bears are doing with this pick?
So let me tell you something. I got two teams right now, potentially three that I think are going to trade up for this pick. We start with the first one. First one, these guys, the Las Vegas Raiders. Depends what happens, right? First of all, I think this is inevitably going to happen. Not to these guys, but they're going to trade Derek Carr. It's inevitable, right? They're going to trade Derek Carr. If I had to pick, they're going to trade Derek Carr to either um, Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I think Tampa Bay is a needy team. I think Brady's gone for sure, especially if they like we mentioned in the playoff predictor, if they lose in the first round, he's out of there.
Yeah, I agree.
Or I could see him potentially being traded to the Indianapolis Colts. If the Indianapolis Colts trade for Carr, then obviously they don't need to draft a quarterback top 5.
Yep.
They can open that up to defense. They can play around with that a little bit more. For sake of argument, we're gonna say if it's the LA Raider or Las Vegas Raiders, they will move up to one only in the scenario to draft a quarterback. If they decide, say they get Brady instead, they're obviously not going to have to do that because they're going to stick with Brady. But I can definitely see them trading up. So that's one team. Another one's the Indianapolis Colts. Again, assuming they don't get Carr or any of the free agents, I think the only person they could potentially get is Carr, frankly. I don't think a free agent would want to play there. I could see them, and look at this. This is not a hard trade to make. 4 for 1, maybe throw in another first, a couple late round picks in exchange for another couple late round picks. This is a very viable trade. Indy is in an absolute position to draft a quarterback. They have a young team that can just develop over the years. And I just think that they would be an ideal spot. Again, assuming they don't get Carr. But again, if you're Indy, now that I think about it, why would you trade for Carr? Again, I'm big on Derek Carr, so it's
Yep.
not a shot on him at all. It's more like how many years has Indy gone for that veteran, experienced quarterback, and they've always underachieved.
Rivers, Carson Wentz.
Rivers, Carson Wentz, now Matt Ryan, and then Derek Carr. It's like at some point you got to just accept the fact that you have to rebuild.
Yeah.
So this might be the year for them to do it. One more team, I think, these guys, the Carolina Panthers. I think they might be, them and the Houston Texans might be the most desperate teams in the league to get a quarterback. I just think Carolina, if realistically, I don't think a lot of teams rate this quarterback draft very highly. Hence, I don't see a lot of teams, unless it's like an indie where you're moving up from 4 to 1, so you're moving up, what, 2, 3 spots. So you don't have to give up as much. Carolina would have to give up a little bit more, but I think Carolina is in such a dire position to get a quarterback. Also considering that they almost won their division, rotating quarterbacks. They may think that going for one of these guys like a Bryce Young or a CJ Stroud would be enough to win them that division, especially if Brady leaves. So I can absolutely see Carolina saying, screw it, we're going to just invest in this draft and move up to the first spot. So if I'm Chicago, honestly, I think the team that can give you the most value out of the three is probably Indianapolis, because I just think realistically, yes, I think the Panthers would have to give up more for the pick, but I do think Chicago still wants a top 5 pick, because I do think there's some like franchise changing defensive players in particular that they could get in the top 5. So for this I guess for this mock draft, I'm gonna go with the Colts trading up for the first pick. I don't know.
I agree with that. I think the Colts would be I want the Colts to get a new quarterback, and I think this trade would be perfect for them.
So let's move up from 4 to 1. You can even throw in next year's second, maybe this year's third, in exchange for this, and maybe we can do a future 5th. And then, I don't know if you think this is a fair trade. I'm trying to make it as realistic as possible.
Here's the thing. That might be too much in the eye of just a normal person. It is the first overall pick, though.
That's what I'm saying. Like, Chicago's going to play like they might draft a defensive guy with this pick. And so Indy's going to have to give up a lot of assets. And I think this would be more than...
If it was like pick 2, 3, 4, you don't give up that much. But it's pick 1. You could take anybody that any team wants. So
I think this is a fair trade.
I think it's
going to be... It may not be the most pretty trade in the world, but it's going to look something to this effect, because Chicago's looking for a lot of viable draft assets. So let's do this. Offer the trade. Boom. Accepted. I think Indy takes Bryce Young, number 1.
Yep.
Do you agree?
Yep.
Okay. So I think Indy's going to take...
I saw something about that today, too. About like a jersey swap of him in a Indy jersey.
Indy. I do think I'll be frank with you guys. I don't really rate any of these quarterbacks very highly. I don't think any of these guys are going to be too successful, if I'm being honest. Again, for the same reason the same argument I made earlier, I just think the Colts are in a really desperate spot, so they have to trade for a quarterback and accept the rebuild. And who's to say that they're going to be just as bad next year? I don't think they will be. So I can see why they would do it. But frankly, I just don't see how Bryce Young is going to be that successful in Indy. I don't think Stroud's going to be that successful wherever he ends up. But again, between the two, if I had to pick, I like Stroud more than I like Bryce Young. That's just me personally. I think Stroud can do more with the football. I think he's more of an NFL quarterback than Bryce Young. Houston by no means is going to trade out of this pick, by the way. There's no scenario where I see Houston trading out of this pick. I understand they were the worst team in football for a long time, but they are one of the only teams that I mentioned earlier that is desperate for a quarterback. Mm-hmm. So I think they have to take Stroud with this pick. I don't know what you think.
Yeah, I agree. I was going to ask if you think they try to build a strong defense and just live off that so they can find their quarterback, or if they go quarterback now. And yeah, I think that's fine.
The only reason why I don't think they're going to do that scenario is if, for instance, if Davis Mills was the starting quarterback throughout the entire year, even if he played mediocre, I would say, they're going to go defense and then invest in the quarterbacks next year. But I just think that because there's a flux in that position, in addition to all the other positions, they have to address the quarterback position, because at the end of the day, that's the most important position.
They played, I'm not going to say they were good, but they competed in a lot of games they shouldn't have been in with the team they have. They went to overtime with the Chiefs. People don't talk about this kind of stuff.
That's what I'm saying. Their defense isn't that bad. So I think they have to go quarterback, though. I think they absolutely have to address that position. So give me that. This is another scenario where I do not see a trade happening. I think Arizona losing J.J. Watt makes this pick very obvious. They have to rebuild. I mean, the defense already has some decent young pieces. I know they had a lot of injuries on both sides of the field. But I think if you're Arizona, you need to capitalize on this opportunity and take Will Anderson, who I think is the best player in this draft.
Honestly, I didn't even think about that till you said it. JJ retires. Perfect pick right there.
Perfect pick.
And
So now you're Chicago.
I like their
Sorry,
defense. I like their defense too with their linebacker spot. You got Simmons, you got Zaven Collins. Now you add a good pass rusher. You know,
And he's, in my opinion, the best football player of this draft class.
I just think they just need. I'm not saying their secondary is terrible. They just need a solid secondary, one where people know the names of everybody on it. Then that defense will be scary.
Yeah.
But on to Chicago.
So Chicago, I could see 3 scenarios. I could see them potentially trading out of this pick too. Although I'm trying to be realistic. I feel like once they trade out of the pick once, they're not going to trade out of the top 5.
Yeah.
So let's not do that. But I think it's going to come down to 2 players. It's going to come down to Jalen Carter, who is the best player available, or they're going to address their most needed position on offense and take Quinn Johnston. But then my question is this, right? Darnell Mooney looked decent, although he's not great. What's his name? Claypool has been meh. The offense needs a lot of work, right? So I would argue the defense needs just as much work. And I think if you're top 5, assuming Will Anderson gets traded at this point, you have to go best player available. I think you just have to. And I think Jalen Carter has the potential of being a generational franchise defensive player for the Bears. He's just that kind of guy that can rally the troops, that can impact games on his own. So I think while Quinn Johnston might be the most valuable pick based on for Justin Fields' sake, I just think, and Chicago fans are going to hate this pick, I just think Jalen Carter, it's one of those best case scenario, best player on the board. You're still in the top 5, franchise-changing player on the defensive side. He's not the sexiest pick in the world, but if you're looking at value, why would you take a receiver in the top 5 when you can get a guy that can be a cornerstone defensive player for your franchise for the next 10, 15 years?
And I agree.
So I think Jalen Carter, although it may not be this, again, the sexiest pick may not be the best fit, it's one of those where they're going to look back in 5 years and be like, okay, that's really good value. I don't know if you agree with that.
No, yeah, I agree. Sorry, I said that.
Oh, we're going to take Jalen Carter here for Chicago. So this is a really interesting pick right here. Because if Geno Smith didn't take them to the postseason, I would have said, I'll bite the bullet and go for Will Levis from a development standpoint. I'm going to be frank. I'm not a big Will Levis guy. I don't see all the hype. People say he's a pro-style quarterback. All I see is he throws a lot of picks. I'm not a fan. I could see the potential in him being a diamond in the rough with the right coaching and with the right environment. But I just don't think quarterback is that pressing of a need right now for them. I think Seattle could survive with the draft assets they got from Denver next year. In addition to the natural regression they're going to face next year, they're not going to be a playoff team next year. I'll just tell you that right now. They're not. So Rams are going to be good next year. Fine. I think assuming McVay stays, they'll figure it out. And I think 49ers are going to be just as good. So I think Seattle's going to take a dip. And I think they have the assets to make a trade in next year's draft should they need a quarterback for a Caleb Williams, for a Quinn Ewers, who are better than any of the quarterbacks in this draft class. So I don't see him going quarterback. That being said, I think they will take advantage of this draft pick and trade down for more draft picks to potentially make a trade like that.
I could see that.
So I think I could see here is where I would say if I'm Carolina, I may trade up. Because I'm so desperate for a quarterback that, hey, listen, Darnold played decent so he can start the year for me. But what if Will Levis ends up being better than I thought, and Will Levis in a shitty division ends up being the guy that can take us over the edge?
Now let me ask you this question.
Yeah.
You see those picks, Detroit, Raiders, Falcons. Falcons aren't taking a quarterback. I don't believe they would over
They
Ritter.
could. I definitely can
Do
see
you
a
think they?
scenario
You
where they
think they
do.
would, or they would take one after they drafted Ritter and played him in what 3 games, 4 games?
I think there's a scenario where they could.
I think the Raiders could. I don't think the I think the Lions think Goff is their guy.
No, Lions aren't drafting a quarterback this
So,
year.
do you think the Panthers would be that desperate to trade up with the teams in front of them?
The only reason why I would say yes is because I see a lot of hype with this Levis guy. And I think it's going to be one of those things where as we get closer to draft night, teams are going to be desperate to start. Like, his stock is going to just keep rising for some reason, which I don't understand why, because I don't think he's very good. But for some reason, think of what's a good scenario? What's a good comparison, rather?
Trayvon Walker
Jordan
rise.
Love, for instance. This guy Malik Willis. Even though Malik Willis was a third round pick, his stock went up. You see that every year with some of these less developed guys are like, oh, we can develop him into being a Josh Allen type, because that's always the example. So perhaps they are desperate to trade up because they know that their division is so vulnerable.
Okay, that's fair. I agree with that.
I have Carolina trading up from 9 to 5. I think they would have to give up potentially, I would say 9. They're moving up 4 spots. So I'd say potentially this year's third and a future second. And then I would say Seattle would give up 5, and I would say a future third. I don't know if you'd like that.
I mean,
So what they're doing is they're giving up a few. Actually, I don't think so. I think they might be more willing to trade a pick in this draft than they are next year's.
yeah.
So let's just say 2025
Okay.
third round pick, because I don't think they want to get rid of any of these picks. So let's offer the trade. Trade accepted. Carolina takes Will Levis with this pick. This is an awesome pick for Detroit, because I think Detroit needs defensive help. There's a lot of really good players left. You got Miles Murphy out of Clemson, who's a naturally good pass rusher. You got Brian Bresee, who's a great interior lineman. You got Nolan Smith, who's an experienced edge rusher. You got Tyree Wilson, who a lot of people love as a young guy who could develop. But I think the glaring hole with the Lions, especially since they took a pass rusher last year who's had a great year, is corner. I think they get burned every game. So I think the natural pick, South Carolina has a great history with corners. This guy, Cam Smith, is going to end up being the first corner taken. Perhaps is a little high, but I think if you're a team like Detroit on the edge of a playoff spot, you got to go for those kind of guys that can completely change your defense. I think they have to address the biggest hole in their defense, which I think is the secondary. I would go Cam Smith with this pick. I don't know how you feel about that.
I was just gonna say, especially since Jeff Okudah finally took a step forward in his pro career, complimenting him with another corner, especially not saying he's young, but complimenting a youngish corner with a younger corner.
Yeah.
He could mentor him so he doesn't have those early struggles.
Yeah.
You have a solid defense. Your offense was I want to say solid, all right defense. Your offense was putting up 30, 40 points in games that you shouldn't have been in.
Right.
You find a corner that can complement Jeff Okudah and potentially be better than him at his rookie year, young age. I agree with it.
I go Cam Smith. I think Cam Smith makes the most sense for Detroit. Okay. I have to do something before we get into this.
Really?
Derek Carr, goodbye. Derek Carr, goodbye. You, sir, are a Tampa Bay Buccaneer. You will be traded for the 19th pick of the first round. And I think if you're Las Vegas, you're going to have to probably give up a late round pick in order to facilitate this trade. Give me, you'll give up 102. Derek Carr 102 for pick 19, and then say a future 5th. You agree with that?
Yeah.
So we're going to offer the trade. Trade was accepted. So now, reason why I did that is because now the Raiders have both pick 17 and pick 19. Although we won't get there, I do think the Raiders are going to get some more draft capital, and they need it. Okay, that being said, I'm assuming in this scenario that the Raiders filled in their hole at quarterback with a veteran. Tom Brady, Jimmy Garoppolo, something to that effect. Potentially Aaron Rodgers, who knows. So I don't think they're going to go quarterback here. What I do think they're going to do is I think they're going to have to address the offensive line. I think their run protection was great this year. Obviously, Jacobs had an elite year. But I just think in general, if you're already getting a veteran quarterback, you want to make sure they're protected. You want to make sure that they can make the right throws to Devontae Adams. And if you're going to resign, Josh Jacobs, you want to make sure you have the best protection. I think the best lineman in this draft is Paris Johnson out of Ohio State.
You knew better than me, but I agree with the lineman pick. I'm not against that.
So I'm going to go offensive tackle. Again, not a sexy pick, but again, in this scenario, we're assuming the Raiders filled in that gap, traded Carr for some assets, and in exchange, they got a veteran guy. They want to compete now. Okay. Atlanta needs a lot of places. So we already agreed they're not going to go quarterback because I don't think Anthony AR-15. What's his name? Anthony Richardson. Excuse me.
I forgot his name for a second too.
No chance Atlanta takes Anthony Richardson at 8. If they did, that'd be the dumbest pick I've ever seen in my life.
If they did that, here's what I'll say. You have Desmond Ridder. He struggled, but he kind of found it towards the end. Not great, not good, but starting to get, development. If you were to draft a quarterback, mentally for him, that just is deflating probably.
Yeah.
He probably thinks the team has given up on him already. And if Richardson sucks, Ritter's not going to be in the best spirits to want to play.
Yeah.
So I agree, quarterback was a no-go for them.
So quarterback's a no-go. I think they have to fill in holes on the defensive side. I think they just have to. And I think their secondary isn't really the issue. I just don't think they have much of a pass rush, if I'm being honest.
Yeah, I agree.
That being said, go ahead.
I agree, yeah.
So that being said, I think the best edge rusher available right now is Tyree Wilson out of Texas Tech. Because although he doesn't have the name recognition of a Miles Murphy, of a Nolan Smith, he's one of these guys that again, it's like with quarterbacks. There's always those linemen from the smaller programs that everyone wants to draft really high and turn into the next elite pass rusher in the NFL that no one realized. And I think Tyree Wilson is that kind of guy. So I'm going to take Tyree Wilson with the 8th pick if I'm the Falcons. You develop him, he'll be a good player for you. Do you agree?
Yeah, I agree with that. Yeah.
Now, you're Seattle. You're sticking with Geno. Geno took you to the playoffs, even if you got smoked by the 49ers, right? You could do so many things with this pick. You could go defense, because I think their defense needs some work, in particular the secondary. But you could also go offensive line. I think they've been needing to fill a gap at offensive line for how many years now, Frank? Probably 5.
I was just about to say, last year you drafted Charles Cross. Get another one.
It's true.
Go.
That's the thing.
But the thing is,
you double up on offensive line.
Well, look what
Geno.
I mean, it's not the same situation. We'll use my team. Look what the Giants did. Drafted Andrew Thomas. He slowly developed, became an amazing left tackle. The entire O-line still struggled. Let's go get an Evan Neal. Now he's starting.
I mean, Seattle, again, they look good, but again, I just think they want to. If you go back-to-back drafts by drafting tackles, that sets you up very well in the future. Exactly. In the event that you decide to draft a young guy, a young quarterback in the future.
Yeah, drafting Charles Cross is good. Why not be better?
So I'm going to go with the Northwestern tackle. I don't know how you pronounce his name, but I know he's decent, so I'm going to take that. Boom.
I like the pick.
Pick if I'm Seattle. This right here.
I hate this. I hate this so much.
There's so many things these guys can do because you could argue they're just a perfect football team.
You could argue they'll get a receiver and make him a third, and they just tear the league apart. You could argue they.
Can I tell you what I think is an X factor pick with this?
Let's hear it.
Now, look, the thing is with this sheer value here, it's hard for me to go against a defensive player like a Brian Branch, for instance, to shore up the safeties. I feel like that's probably a little bit. If I had to nitpick, right? Mm-hmm. I think that might be a slight hole. You could argue they could use an upgrade at pass rush.
Last year, I thought they were going to go get Kyle Hamilton and fill their safety gap, but the Ravens got him.
You know what would be a broken pick?
Oh,
they took this guy. I just think if you're Philly, what do you have to lose by taking this guy?
I mean, nothing. They have depth all over the D line. Linebackers are solid. Secondary solid. The running room. The issue. Here's the thing. I get it. Miles Sanders was a 1,000-yard rusher in the running back committee. Okay, so put Miles Sanders with this guy.
Dude, with this protection, imagine a Derrick Henry type player with this offensive line.
Yeah, I mean, I hate it as a Giants fan, but
I just think this is like too good to pass if you're Philly. Listen, if this was another team that if this was New Orleans, whose pick this is, right?
yeah.
If this was New Orleans, you have to then think big picture, fill in gaps. If you're the Eagles, you can afford to reach on this pick. You can afford to do that. So why not go for Bijan Robinson?
Yeah, I mean, I see it. I get it. It sucks for me, but I get it.
So I take Bijan Robinson if I'm the Eagles. The Titans, I think they have to go receiver, Frank.
Have to. You cannot tell me, oh, I love throwing to Robert Woods.
No. They have to, just for the sake of their team. It's so one-dimensional. And I think you could dispute who you like. A lot of scouts love JSN. They all think JSN is the best receiver in the draft. They think he can prove it. I just think the Titans can't afford to go for a maybe player. I think they have to go for a safe pick here. And I think Quentin Johnston might be the safest pick here at this position. I don't know what you think.
I agree with it. I mean,
he had a pooper against Georgia, but so did his entire team. So I think you got to go Quentin Johnston. Again, do I think JSN has the highest upside? Yes. But I think Quentin Johnston's the safe pick. If you're Tennessee, you just need a guy that can catch the ball and make plays. You go Quentin Johnston. All right. So now Houston's interesting, right? So you took CJ Stroud. Awesome. You could do one of two things with this pick. You guys should do three things with this pick. You could shore up the offensive line to give your new quarterback some protection. You could give him a weapon. You can give him an elite weapon to start throwing to, because I'm assuming Cooks is going to get traded.
Cooks is probably out. Chris Moore stepped it up at the end of the year, but you always need someone else.
You always do. Or you could shore up the defense. We said the defense played decently, but there's a couple really good players left on here. I mean, they could go so many different ways. This is a really hard pick. I'm going to go upside pick, though. I think they go JSN to complement. So they are going to link up JSN with his former quarterback, CJ Stroud, two Ohio State guys. Keep that same. We've been seeing this trajectory over the years. I think we're going to continue. We saw it with the two Alabama guys on Fins. What's his name? And Tua and Jalen Waddle. We see it on the Bengals, the two LSU guys. Burrow and Chase. There's a couple others that I'm forgetting, but I think you keep the trend. I think you go JSN at 12 if you're the Texans.
Yeah, I agree with that. I mean, you have a dominant running back, Dameon Pierce. O.J. Howard, kind of all right tight end, you could say.
Yeah.
Chris Moore is not the worst, not the best. If Cooks is there, that's awesome.
Yeah.
If he's not, okay. Just keep building. You're in a rebuild. I like that pick.
This one's another bit of a reach. Because, again, in this scenario, I'm assuming the Jets might have gotten Lamar Jackson.
Yes, I will agree with that. The Jets have probably fixed their quarterback situation.
So they're going to fix their quarterback situation, so maybe they get Carr. In this case, they didn't, right? But I think they might give that guaranteed cash to Lamar Jackson. They have some really good young receivers. Their offensive line is, albeit they were beat up this year, but they have some really good young guys on that offensive line, and their defense is top 10 in the NFL.
Yep. Running back.
So you
running
can
back
afford
room is
to
great.
Huh?
The running back room is great. Defense is good.
Defense is good. Running back, exactly. So they just have a really good overall young team. They're a quarterback away from competing. Say they got Lamar Jackson on a guaranteed contract, like what's his name, Watson. Okay. There's one position they can improve on offense, and it's this guy right here. See, I don't know if you know much about this guy, Frank. You know I don't like Notre Dame, but he might be the most unguardable player in this entire draft class. He is a Kyle Pitts type player. Not as dynamic, but as a pass catcher, the guy is incredible. You're essentially giving Lamar Jackson. Go ahead.
I was saying they do need a tight end. They have C.J. Uzama, who he wasn't terrible, but he's your face explained that. Whatever.
I think this guy you're essentially giving Lamar Jackson a Mark Andrews type player in addition to the young receivers and overall skill position players they already have. I think you got to do it. I think you got to go Michael Mayer from Notre Dame. This would the Jets are going to be disgusting next year if this happens. And I hate that as a Fins fan. All right. New England likes to neglect offense, so they're going to go defense. Question is, where on the defense are they going to fill in a hole? Are they going to go for another corner? Perhaps, they lose a couple guys. I think they're going to go safe here. I think they have to take Miles Murphy from Clemson as an edge.
Say, Judon having a great year, the year he had. You pair him up with another dominant edge rusher. I don't know how dominant he is, but if you become dominant, Judon, him, and a Belichick scheme, Belichick would love to manipulate offensive minds with a great pass rush. Because Belichick has always had good corners. You've never really seen Belichick with outside of like the 2007 Patriots, I'm talking about like recent years. You never seen him with like a crazy pass rush.
Yeah.
Like he was using Kyle Van Noy for a couple years as a pass rusher.
Yeah.
So
it's true. I think you go natural pass rusher, Miles Murphy's been there, done that, can develop. This is such an obvious pick. There's one guy that screams that the Packers need. They need another receiver. They're probably going to lose Lazard. I know Christian Watson is developing, and so is, I forget the other guy, the young guy. But
I'm trying to think of his name.
You know what I'm talking about, right? I'm forgetting his name.
I don't know why I can't think about it either.
I think even if, regardless of Aaron Rodgers being there or not.
Romeo Doubs?
Dobbs, yeah. I think you got to draft a receiver. I think you have to. If you're Green Bay, you're due for drafting an established, good young receiver. Jordan Addison is just that. I think it's just a natural. It fits like a glove. I think you got to take him if you're Green Bay.
Boom.
Okay, that's 15 picks. We could go until 31, or we could stop here, Frank. It's up to you.
I'm cool stopping at 15.
All right, we'll stop at 15.
You want to scroll up and go over it real quick?
Sure. Okay, so to recap, I don't know if I can make this bigger.
No, you can just talk about it.
You see that?
Yeah.
Okay. So for round one, we traded. Chicago has the first pick. We traded to Indy. Indy decides to take a quarterback, say, screw getting veteran quarterbacks. We're going to get Bryce Young. Okay, so they get Bryce Young. We said Texans have to go quarterback because, again, they're a team in flux. Quarterback's most important position. I think they take Stroud. Stroud really improved his draft stock after that performance in the playoff against Georgia. You got to take him at 2. This is a case, best player available, in my opinion, best draft pick in this entire draft class. Best player in the draft class, rather. And I think, again, you lose J.J. Watt. You are obviously filling in a natural hole here. This guy can be literally what J.J. Watt was for the Texans, for sake of argument. Will Anderson. So I think this makes a lot of sense. Jalen Carter for Chicago. Again, Chicago fans, I already know they're gonna hate this pick because it's not a flashy receiver. It's not JSN. It's not Quentin Johnston. You're not helping out Fields per se. But what you're getting is a guy that's going to be a consistent double-digit sack guy in the interior line. Guy that's going to be a franchise cornerstone player for the next 15 years to help rebuild the defense and overall the team. So I just think it makes a lot of sense. This is a bit of a reach, but this is a scenario where, this is the team that played with 3 different starting quarterbacks, if not more, if my memory doesn't serve me right. Almost won their division. They were a game away from winning it in a playoff spot with Sam Darnold. And again, Will Levis is, in my opinion, far from a perfect player, but I can definitely see the appeal from a development standpoint. He plays a very pro-style quarterback. He's a pocket guy. So again, if you're Carolina, I think Sam Darnold played well enough where you can start him in the beginning of the year and then eventually plug Levis in if you feel like you have to. Or you could even sit him out the entire first year and then let him develop. But this is a high-risk, high-reward play, especially for Carolina, who traded up to this pick. Who did they trade with again? They traded with Seattle in this scenario. So again, Seattle's getting some more draft assets because they feel like they trust in Geno for one more year. They're going to regress. They know that. They don't want to admit it, but they know that, and they're going to try to trade up for one of these superstar quarterbacks in next year's draft. So they take Levis at 5. A scenario where a really, really good young team decides to fill in a glaring hole on defense. Although the defense in general needs some help, I do think Okudah, like you mentioned, Frank, has improved Give him another superstar corner. I think that defense is going to wreak some havoc and help the offense carry the load a little bit in Detroit. Raiders, again, this is assuming the Raiders filled in the quarterback gap. They traded Carr to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in this scenario, so they got another first-round pick that they'll draft later, so that gives them some more assets. They keep Davante Adams, and they get a veteran quarterback, meaning a Tom Brady, a Jimmy Garoppolo, potentially an Aaron Rodgers to reunite with Davante Adams. Who knows? So I think, assuming you get a veteran quarterback, the issue isn't really weapons for me more than it is protection. Give them some extra protection, especially if it's a veteran. You want to make sure they don't go down hurt. You feel like you can compete this year, so give them, in my opinion, the best tackle in the draft, Paris Johnson. Falcons need some help on defense. They take Tyree Wilson. He's one of these high-risk, high-reward guys, and the Falcons can afford to develop. They have a good young team that's going to be bad for a couple years. Maybe they'll end up being good in a couple years, in like 2-3 years. Okay. Seattle trades down. They're going to trust Geno for another year. They're going to give him some extra protection to continue his really good play. And in the event they decide to trade up for Caleb Williams and or for like an Evers, Quinn Ewers, excuse me, they'll shore up the offensive line. They already took they took Cross last year, so they're just going to continue that. We spoke about this at length. It's not every day that you see the number 1 seed in the NFC with a top 10 pick in the draft as well. They can afford to reach. They go for, in my opinion, arguably the best skill position player in this draft, not named, but in my opinion, Michael Mayer. So Bijan Robinson automatically makes the Eagles from insanely good to even more insanely good. Titans, this is a no-brainer. You got to take a receiver. I think they go for the safest option, and I think Quentin Johnson makes a lot of sense. Texans, a little bit of a risk here because JSN didn't play last year, but a lot of scouts are saying he's the best receiver in the draft. I tend to agree. You drafted CJ Stroud. You're going to unite him with a teammate. They have good chemistry already, so it makes sense. Jets, in this scenario, they filled in their quarterback need. They got, I think they get Lamar Jackson on a fully guaranteed contract because they can afford it. They already have good young weapons, good young offensive line, really good young defense. I think the only glaring position they need is potentially a tight end. I think Michael Mayer may be the most unguardable player in this draft class. And I just think it makes the Jets even better. Patriots, classic Patriots pick, take an edge rusher. Okay. Green Bay has to go receiver. Even if they trade Rodgers, I think they have to give whoever the replacement quarterback is, they have to give him some weapons. I think Lazard's going to walk for some money. So I think Addison makes sense. So that's my mock draft for top 15.
Yeah, man. I loved it. And next time around, when the maybe playoffs are done, we can get a full one in when all the teams finally have their actual spots.
Yeah,
I love
for
that.
sure.
But yeah, that was fun, man. So we'll probably next week, if you want to come back on, we'll talk about the playoffs again. If you're down.
I'm down.
All right. I'm about to do my outro. You don't know my outro, do you?
What's your outro?
All right, guys. I hope everybody enjoyed the video. Please leave a like, comment, subscribe, and peace.
Peace.
Peace.